In this video, we'll cover the pure oil ingredient in Pokemon Sleep and just talk in general about all the ingredient specialists, skill specialists, and the berry specialists that have this ingredient as an option. There are a few Pokemon in the ingredient category that are just made for one thing. Toxicroak is one of those Pokemon, and so overall, this video is going to be quite a brief one compared to a lot of the other ingredients deep dive videos. And the simple reason is we have an ingredient specialist Pokemon that has the potential for triple oil, and it doesn't have the third option. There just is no C ingredient on the Toxicroak, which means the odds of you finding the triple oil Toxicroak is incredibly high. So I don't know exactly how these odds turn out. It's something like 2/3 on this one, and then it would be 50% on each of these. So then we have 1/3 and then 50%. So 1 in 6 chance of finding the triple oil. And overall, I would say Toxicroak is possibly just a B tier Pokemon overall. You don't really want to use it aside from getting oil. And the oil drop here is pretty decent, and especially at level 60. But for the most part, I think Toxicroak does one thing, and it does one thing really well. Get it to level 30, retire it, and bring it out whenever you need the ingredients here. I think also with the speed here, it is not really a big problem, even though it's slow. I don't think it is a big detriment. The biggest issue for you will be the inventory here. And if we hop on over to the comparison here, we can put up some sub skills as well, just to paint a picture of what this oil specialist is doing. So I think for the most part, you will want a big inventory. Even the inventory L is going to be a big deal on the Toxicroak. And at that point, if you could also either find the helping speed M, that's going to be a big boost just because it's getting close to an hour here on the frequency. And then maybe if we find something like the lonely nature, where you either get the helping speed here or the ingredient finder, and then whatever else, like you either want the speed nature and the ingredient finding subskill, or the ingredient finding nature and the speed subskill. Because if you can find some version of this, you want inventory and a little bit speed and a little bit ingredient, or the other way where it goes like this, of course. So you get a little bit of inventory, a little bit of ingredient finding, and a little bit of speed. Then for the most part, I don't think you should waste your resources too hard on hunting the Toxicroak. The most important overall will be the inventory and the oil in the second slot here. For the most part, you're probably not going to look for a Toxicroak to bring all the way into level 60. I wouldn't recommend it personally. If you do find the triple oil, that's going to be good because you always have that option of carrying it into level 60. But, 121, not the strongest of ingredients. The 5 here, not the strongest of the drops. Decent ingredient rate. It's fairly slow, and it does need the inventory. So overall, I wouldn't say the pure oil should be used in any situation except for the necessity. There are certain dishes that will require the oil, and for that purpose, the Toxicroak is going to be really strong. So yeah, it's like it's the strong Pokemon of a weak ingredient, if that makes sense. But yeah, a lot of people tend to place Toxicroak in like D tier, even F tier. That to me is outrageous. I think it is well deserving of the B tier because it is such an easy to get mono ingredient specialist. For the oils, I do think you could make the case that Toxicroak is indeed an A tier Pokemon. And the reason for that is it has a purpose and it's really good at that purpose. And it's just easy to switch in and out whenever you need it. And it's just going to start running and get you these oils. And then you can switch it back out again for a berry specialist. An honorable mention here as a berry specialist is the Walrein, because it does have the option here for a triple oil. But for the most part, the bigger value here is going to be the double bean sausage potentially. If we head back here on the list, obviously the ginger in the fourth or in the third slot. There is no fourth ingredient list, imagine. So like overall, the value of the ingredients is going to be oil, sausage, and then ginger. But Walrein is a berry specialist, and it's one of the S tier Pokemon in the game too. And so you want berry finding, helping speed, and then maybe a helping bonus, a great nature that is reducing the ingredient drop rate. And yeah, it's just, that's the way it is. The latter part of this video will be all about discouraging you from getting Pokemon that are ingredient specialists to have the oil. Ditto is another ingredient specialist that can have the triple oil. It is awful. You can see that Ditto has leak and tails as an option. So for the most part, the best pattern on Ditto is going to be oil, leak, and tail. And I'll probably use some time here on the remaining ingredient deep dive videos, and then at some point I'll make the how to use series where I just zoom in, go through all the scenarios of a single species, and just paint a super detailed picture of what each Pokemon is good for. So Ditto, avoid it. Don't do the triple oil on the Ditto. It's not good. Overall, Ditto is not even all that much better than the Toxicroak if you consider the oil. Like you can see that the inventory is smaller. If you add 5 here, you get to 19. It's faster. It's got a better ingredient rate. So don't waste the Ditto slot on the oils. God forbid. So we have another Pokemon here. It is the Gengar. It has oil as the last slot here. Don't go for a Gengar with the oil. You either want mostly double mushrooms, maybe a triple herb could be justified, but for the most part, you want Dragonite to do that job. And the double mushrooms here on the Gengar is the best scenario because it is the best Pokemon in the game for that ingredient. And then that should leave us with a single Pokemon left here to talk about, and that is the Dragonite. At least for the ingredient specialists. We'll also go a little bit over the berry and the skill specialists, but for the most part, oil is that third wheel or fifth wheel or whatever that expression is. On the Dragonite, you want triple herb. If you get a mix of corn, potentially if you have superb sub skills, then you can, accept it, particularly the double herb and then corn at the end. But even the Dragonite, it has a purpose. Go for the herbs and do not get the oil. The oil is bad. So at that point, we've covered every single ingredient specialist, and we can quickly rapid fire go over some of these berry and skill specialists. So I have Igglytuff. Potential for the double oil. Don't recommend it, but for the most part, the ingredient list is not really what you're looking for in the skill specialist. Then we have Magnezone. Magnezone is another Pokemon that you could potentially consider for the ingredient list a little bit, just because it does carry that potential. And while you are low on the oils, potentially you can bring out the Magnezone, get the skill procs, and then after the skill procs, switch it out again, having collected a decent chunk of oils. Overall, I would say Magnezone is an S tier Pokemon with the skill-centric analysis. So you really don't care at all what the ingredient list is. It's just a nice to have. If you find a pristine Magnezone with the mono oil, that's just a bonus, but don't look for Magnezone for the oil. All right, and then we have covered most of these. We have the Typhlosion. Has oil as a third option there. Not to be recommended. Don't look for Typhlosion for the oil. We have the Feraligatr, another Pokemon that lacks that third slot here. And I'm also, to an extent, wondering if it's just because they want you to have a decent chance of these double and triple patterns, because they are quite strong. But then again, it's a berry specialist. Don't do it. Then we have the Wobbuffet, which I'm upset about having to bring up here every time because it does something. Overall, not a good Pokemon. Same with the Sableye. Also got the potential for the triple oil, but overall, Sableye F tier. Don't use it. It's awful. And we have the Bonnet. Also the possibility for the triple oil. So you see, the oil is fairly available. It's just a matter of what your collection looks like. But for the most part, the Toxicroak is going to be it. It does oil really well. And here we go. The last Pokemon here also has the potential for the triple oil. So hope you found this video interesting. I am a big Toxicroak fan. Overall, Toxicroak not the best Pokemon, but the job that it has, it does really well. So hope you enjoyed it, and leave a like if you found it helpful, and I'll talk to you again in another video.